You guys, I don't know how to explain this, but something about Kylie Jenner right now just feels off. Like, I'm sorry, but does anyone else feel it too? Because one minute she's posting like nothing's wrong. Luxury, glam, perfect lighting, same poses, and then the next minute she's suddenly talking about quitting influencing, pivoting to acting. Hollywood, like, what is happening? And I know what you're thinking. People change careers all the time. Yeah, but this isn't just a normal switch. This feels like a reaction, like something pushed her into this, and I don't think we're being told what that something is. Because let's rewind for a second. Kylie Jenner used to be the internet. Not just popular, not just trending. I mean, the blueprint. King Kylie era, untouchable. Snapchat, she ran it. Instagram, she was the algorithm. You literally couldn't scroll without seeing her face, her lips, her outfits, her products. Tell me why she could post a blurry selfie and it would sell out an entire product line in minutes. Like, that level of influence doesn't just disappear, right? But wait, this is where it gets weird. Because slowly, people stopped caring. And I'm not even trying to be dramatic. Look at the engagement, look at the reactions, look at the comments. When was the last time you, or anyone you know, bought a Kylie Cosmetics product? Be honest, 2017? 2018? Exactly. And that's not just coincidence. That's the first crack. Because here's the thing, no one wants to say out loud, Kylie didn't fall off overnight. It happened in phases, and once you see the pattern, you literally cannot unsee it. First, it was the brands. Kylie Cosmetics, huge at launch. Kylie Skin, okay, people tried it. Kylie Baby, Kylie Swim. Oh no, you guys remember that, right? The reviews, the fabric, the sizing. I'm sorry, but that wasn't just a flop. That was a moment, and not a good one. But wait, instead of fixing anything, instead of addressing anything, what did they do? They pivoted again and again and again, and this is where things start to feel strategic. Because every time something doesn't work, it's a new brand, new aesthetic, new era. Like, tell me why it always feels like we're being reintroduced to Kylie every 6 months. And at first, it kind of worked. People were still curious, still watching, still hoping for that King Kylie energy to come back. But then, this is where things change. People stopped believing it. Like, I'm sorry, but authenticity was the entire reason Kylie blew up in the first place. Tumblr Kylie, Snapchat Kylie. Messy, random, funny, real. That's what people connected to. But now, everything feels filtered, scripted, safe. Like she's not even a person anymore. She's a product. And once that happens, people disconnect fast.
What if I said Kylie Jenner was good in the moment? What if I said that? Kylie's cameo in Charlie XCX's A24 film The Moment is now going viral because people are actually saying, wait, hold on. Her performance is actually really strong.
What's that dance everyone's doing?
Yes,
The fruit?
apple.
Apples.
Yes.
Apples.
Yeah.
So cute.
Remembering that this film is a mockumentary and Kylie is playing herself, it's kind of genius the way that like she immediately comes up to Charlie, looks straight into the camera. It's very like everyone in this film is aware that they are being filmed. So Kylie acknowledges the camera, but she doesn't let it faze her. As someone who has been on TV her whole life and always surrounded by cameras, she knows what to do around them. So her not really flinching is everything. I know Timmy had her running lines down. I believe this is Kylie's first real acting role, and she was not in this movie for very long. But what if I said it's kind of better than anything Kim's ever done? Kim's acting in All's Fair is camp in like a bad way. Like you kind of can't look away, it's like a car crash. But I actually felt like Kylie's performance in the moment was good, and not ironically. I would be interested to see her doing more acting roles, even if she's playing herself, because this was like a play on herself, the way that the world would see Kylie Jenner in this mockumentary. And so I felt like she really infused that into the role. But it's not just me that thinks that. The internet is really praising Kylie, and it's kind of great. But what are your thoughts? If you saw the movie, like, did you think that Kylie did a good job?
But wait, it gets worse. Because while all of this is happening, the internet itself is changing. Everyone has a brand now. Everyone is selling something. Everyone is an influencer. So now it's not just Kylie competing with celebrities. She's competing with literally everyone. And suddenly, being Kylie Jenner isn't enough anymore. And I think she knows that. I really do. Because in that interview, she literally says it's getting harder to grab attention, that it's draining, that people scroll past. And I'm like, wait, is she admitting it? Because if Kylie Jenner can't hold attention anymore, that's not just burnout, that's a shift. And this is where the pattern starts to get uncomfortable. Because right when her influence starts slipping, suddenly there's a relationship. And I'm not saying anything definitive, but I am saying the timing is interesting. Kylie Jenner and Timothée Chalamet, you guys, be honest. Did anyone expect that? Because this is where it gets weird. They go from being super private, barely seen together, to suddenly very public, very affectionate, very visible. US Open, concerts, events, paparazzi shots, kissing, laughing, holding hands. It's like a full rollout. And I'm sitting here like, wait, why now? Because if this was just a relationship, it wouldn't feel like a campaign, but it does. And I'm not the only one thinking this. People online are already connecting dots. Some are saying, he has movies coming out. She has shows coming out. They can't promote directly, so they promote indirectly. Allegedly, allegedly, allegedly. But tell me why that actually makes sense? Because think about it. Every headline becomes about them. Every clip goes viral. Every appearance trends. It keeps both of them relevant without saying a word about their projects. Coincidence or pattern? And I know some of you are like, okay, but maybe they're just in love. And yeah, maybe. I'm not saying they aren't, but I am saying in Hollywood, love and strategy are not mutually exclusive. And this is where it gets deeper. Because while this relationship is gaining attention, Kylie suddenly announces she wants to act. I'm sorry. What? Out of nowhere? Don't get me wrong, people can change careers, but acting isn't like starting a new brand. It's an art form, a craft, something people train years for, and Kylie just decides. This is where it gets weird. Because now you start looking at everything differently. The relationship, the Hollywood connections, the timing, the burnout narrative. It starts to feel less like a dream and more like a pivot plan. And I'm sorry, but am I the only one seeing this? Because let's talk about that Vanity Fair interview for a second. The way they described her, mythical figure. Every woman, cultural force. I'm sorry. Who wrote that? Because the internet did not agree. People were dragging it hard. And this is where things get uncomfortable again. Because when the public reaction doesn't match the media narrative, that's when you know something's off. It feels like they're trying to tell us how to feel instead of us actually feeling it. And people notice that. They always notice that. Which brings me to the biggest shift of all. People aren't just losing interest in Kylie, they're losing interest in the Kardashians as a whole. Because the world is different now. People don't want to watch billionaires complain. They don't want perfection. They don't want curated lives. They want real, messy, honest. And the Kardashians don't really do that anymore. So now we're in this weird situation where they're still famous, still rich, still visible, but not loved. And that's dangerous because fame without connection doesn't last. But wait, it gets even worse because now Kylie is entering Hollywood, and Hollywood is a completely different game. You're not judged on followers or aesthetics. You're judged on talent, skill, respect. And based on what we've seen so far, I don't know if she's ready for that. Because there are already clips of her being ignored at events, snubbed, overlooked. And I'm not saying that's fair, but I am saying it's telling. Because in that world, she's not the main character anymore. She's the outsider. And that changes everything. So now the question becomes, is this really a new beginning or is it a last attempt to stay relevant? Because when you zoom out, the pattern is kind of undeniable. Influence drops leads to new brands. Brands fail leads to new image. Image fades leads to new relationship. Attention returns leads to new career. Like, am I crazy? Or is this literally a cycle? And if it is a cycle, what happens when this one doesn't work? Because acting isn't something you can just pivot out of overnight. If this fails, there's no easy reset, no quick rebrand. And I think that's why this feels so intense, because this might not just be another era. This might be the final one. And I'm not saying Kylie Jenner is going to disappear. She'll always be rich, always famous, always talked about. But relevance, connection, influence, that's a completely different story. And I don't think we're fully seeing the outcome yet, because something is shifting. You can feel it. And the real question is Kylie controlling the narrative or reacting to it? Because those are two very different things. And depending on the answer, this could either be her biggest comeback or the moment everything finally catches up to her. But what do you guys think? Is this all just coincidence? Or is this a pattern that's been hiding in plain sight this entire time? And you guys, I'm not even done, because this is where it goes from, okay, this is weird, to like actually kind of concerning. Because when you start layering in everything from that interview, everything people are saying online, and the way Kylie herself is talking, it starts to feel like we're watching someone slowly lose control of something they used to completely dominate. Like, tell me why in that same interview, she's basically admitting that the influencer space is draining and oversaturated. And I'm sitting here like, okay, but you built that space. You were the blueprint. So if even you can't stand out in it anymore, what does that say about where things are going? This is where it gets weird, because instead of adapting within that space, instead of evolving her content or getting more real or more raw, she's just leaving, like fully pivoting. And I'm sorry, but that doesn't feel like confidence. That feels like retreat. And then Kendall comes in talking about how Kylie is so good at connecting with people. And I'm like, okay, but where? Recently? Because what we're actually seeing doesn't match that at all. It feels like they're trying to remind us of who Kylie used to be instead of showing us who she is now. And that's such a red flag, because when your current reality doesn't sell, you start selling nostalgia. And we've been seeing that. The King Kylie references, the aesthetic callbacks, the vibe recreations. Like, tell me why it feels like reheated leftovers? But wait, this is where it gets even more uncomfortable, because people online are not just uninterested anymore. They're skeptical, like fully questioning everything. The brands, the numbers, the engagement, even the ads. There are literal conversations happening about whether her views are even real anymore. Bots, inflated numbers, passive scrolling. Like, people are not convinced that what we're seeing reflects actual influence. And that is bad. Because once people start questioning your legitimacy, not just your popularity, that's when things really start to fall apart. And then we get into the businesses again. Because I'm sorry, but how many launches has she had at this point? Kylie Cosmetics, Kylie Skin, Kylie Baby, Kylie Swim, Sprinter. Like, it's constant. And yet, none of them feel like they stick anymore. None of them feel like they have impact. It's just drop after drop after drop, and the response is getting quieter every single time. And this is where it gets brutal. You can't keep calling yourself a business mogul if nothing is actually hitting anymore. At some point, people start connecting the dots. And this is where I start thinking, is this why she's pivoting? Because if influencing isn't working the same way and the businesses aren't hitting like they used to, then what's left? Hollywood. Acting, a completely different lane where she can rebrand herself entirely. And I'm sorry, but that doesn't feel random. It feels like the next calculated step. But wait, this is where it gets insane, because let's talk about the authenticity issue again. One of the biggest criticisms people have right now is that the Kardashians don't admit anything anymore. Cosmetic procedures, changes, edits, everything is denied or brushed off. And that's the exact opposite of what made them successful in the first place. They used to overshare. They used to admit things no one else would. And now, silence, deflection, perfection, and people are over it. Like, I genuinely think if Kylie just came out and was like, hey, this is everything I've done, this is the truth, people would respect her again. Not even joking, because right now the issue isn't that she's changed. It's that she won't acknowledge it. And that creates this disconnect where people feel like they're being lied to. And once that trust is gone, it's almost impossible to get back. And this is where things start connecting back to the relationship again. Because whether you believe it's real or not, you cannot deny that it's helping her image right now. It's softening her, humanizing her, making people talk about her in a different way. Suddenly, it's not just Kylie the billionaire influencer, it's Kylie in love. And that shift, that's powerful because people love love. They attach to it. They project onto it. They root for it. And I think that's exactly why this works so well, whether it's intentional or not. But at the same time, it's also exposing something else. Because when you watch her at these events, around actors, around industry people, you can feel the difference. The energy is different. She's not in her usual environment anymore. She's not the center of attention. And there are moments, awkward ones, where she looks out of place. And I'm not saying that to be mean. I'm saying it because it's noticeable. And that matters because if she's trying to enter that world, perception is everything. And then there's the acting itself. Because people keep bringing up that one cameo she did and saying, oh, she was actually good. And I'm like, okay, but playing yourself in a controlled scene is not the same as carrying a role. It's not the same as transforming or being vulnerable or disappearing into a character. That's a completely different level. And the fact that the bar is already that low, that's not a good sign. So now we're at this point where everything is kind of hanging in the balance. Her influence is declining. Her businesses are inconsistent. Her image is being questioned. Her relationship is under scrutiny. And now she's stepping into an industry that is notoriously unforgiving. Like, I'm sorry, but this is a lot happening at once. And I keep coming back to this one question. What is the end goal here? Is this about reinvention, survival, expansion, or is this just panic? Because the difference matters. One is strategic, the other is reactive, and right now, it's starting to feel a little more reactive. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is all part of a bigger plan that we just don't fully see yet. Maybe she really is going to surprise everyone and actually succeed in Hollywood. Maybe this relationship is genuine. Maybe this is a comeback in the making. Or maybe this is exactly what it looks like. A cycle that's repeating itself, just on a bigger scale this time. And if that's the case, I don't know if another pivot is going to fix it. Because at some point, people stop watching the rebrand. And they start watching the downfall.